Hello, friends. Cowboy Jobu here with the Jobu Sports Report. And as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jobu Sports Report. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Click on the picture of me and Sean Lee so that way you can get your Dallas Cowboy fix even in the off season. Well, I have a day job. So, of course, when I come home, I'm always up for some laughs. So what do? I turn on First Take so I can listen to that jackass, Stephen A. Smith. Well, they're talking about my buddy over here, Jerry Jones, and of course, Jimmy Johnson getting along. Let's go see what they have to say today.
Jimmy Johnson and the 90s triplets reunited for the 25th anniversary of their first Super Bowl as a group. The biggest surprise of the party was that Jerry and Johnson were pretty friendly. This comes as a surprise since the two have been at odds since 1994 when Jerry decided to move on from Johnson after winning back-to-back Super Bowls. Max, is this kind of rekindled relationship a sign that Jerry's starting to get it?
I think the answer is yes. I think the answer is yes here. And I'm a Giants fan, which means a notorious Cowboys hater. That's right. Boy, I hate the Cowboys. And yet, and by the way, it's been a lot of fun as a Giants fan watching this narcissist in his old age kind of devolve to the place where, at first he was very good at manipulating the rules, going back 2 decades plus. And then the league caught up, and he hasn't been good at much of anything as a GM. But in the autumn of his years, Stephen A., and by autumn, I mean like December 20th, like winter is coming, like Game of Thrones with this guy. I mean, he's getting up there in age, and I think what a narcissist sees their reflection in everything. And when he looks at that handsome devil looking back at him, I think he would like a dignified old age, a dignified final act, where he could actually enjoy winning again. And I think we're seeing that in the reconciliation with Jimmy Johnson, to the extent that it's a reconciliation, and the ceding of power to his son, which has resulted in an excellent team. I think, yes, in the autumn of his years, he's getting it.
This is funny. This is absolutely hilarious. Let me get this straight. So because they hooked up together and had some nice dinner, shaking hands, being complimentary with one another, probably hugging and singing Kumbaya to one another, Jerry Jones gets it? Oh, just stop it. That's not what happened here. You know what happened here? The Cowboys actually looked respectable this year. That's what happened. They looked respectable without Jimmy Johnson. That's what happened here. Because he's been gone and he isn't around to take any credit, and you can't help but give Jerry Jones some credit, he doesn't mind being seen in the same vicinity as Jimmy Johnson, because Jimmy Johnson's on Fox on Sundays. Jimmy Johnson's on Fox on Sundays. Jerry Jones is not. So because Jerry Jones is not, and Jimmy Johnson ain't there to take credit, to lead off of, because we got to remember the last time Jerry Jones was relevant was when they was winning 3 Super Bowls in 4 years. And even though they won that last Super Bowl.
Harry Switzer, that was Jimmy Johnson's team.
That was Jimmy Johnson's team, that was Jimmy Johnson's personnel, and Jerry Jones still wasn't getting credit. But 22 years later, even though you haven't won a Super Bowl,
didn't win a playoff game this year.
Well, listen, they didn't win a playoff game this year,
yeah,
but you went 13-3. You are on the come up.
Of course they are.
You look respectable, and as a result, we're talking about the youth on the Cowboys. So Jimmy Johnson is not a threat to me anymore. I can now be
very interesting take.
That's what this is.
That is. I agree with you, Molly. That's a very interesting take, a strong take out of you, Stephen A. Smith.
Usually is.
But when
go ahead.
But when you say what happened was, it didn't just happen. It wasn't happenstance. It was his son, Stephen Jones, taking control, picking offensive linemen. I think it was in the first round 4 out of 5 seasons. Very difficult it must have been for Jerry Jones to do that with all like the sexy skills positioning. Yeah, and he keeps taking Zach Martin, one offensive lineman after another in the first round. It didn't just happen. It wasn't a passive arrangement. It was an active change in the organization. That in itself shows maturity on the part of a very old man, by the way, but okay, we all mature at different rates. And the fact that he can now, even if the embrace of Jimmy Johnson here is a result of the success of the team having nothing to do with Jimmy Johnson, it still has to do with Jerry Jones ceding power. And that is maturity. That's what led to this moment. They still haven't won a playoff game.
Maturity? Jerry Jones.
Yes.
Really? You know, I remember when I was watching Saturday Night Live and Alec Baldwin was talking about, oh, come on, I'm just trying to be cool. Back then, I was a shy, impetuous 59-year-old man. All right, you understand what I'm saying? I'm not paraphrasing there, but that's basically what he was saying. So Jerry Jones, who's, what, 73, 74 years old, he's matured.
Emotionally,
He's a late bloomer.
That's what we're saying, he's matured. Really, that's your argument? Stop it. The fact is, Jimmy Johnson's been gone long enough where he can no longer steal credit from Jerry. And as a result, Jerry is okay being around him. But if you saw Jimmy Johnson and you thought about him and Jerry Jones together, you would inevitably find yourself giving Jimmy Johnson credit instead of Jerry Jones. And that's
but you're
what
looking
Jerry
at
Jones
it in a vacuum. Look at it in the context of a larger situation of what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys.
Now,
Jerry
I
Jones
brought that
was
up.
always the GM. He's the GM in name. He's not really the GM
but that's
anymore.
Not him. The point is that ultimately somebody like Max is going to look at Stephen Jones. When you think about the Dallas Cowboys in this day and age,
think of Jimmy Johnson.
you don't. You
It
do.
left me
you
thinking,
think of
how many
Jerry
rings
Jones.
would they have?
You
I haven't
think
thought of
of
Jimmy
Jerry
Johnson in a long time.
But you think of Jerry Jones. You weren't thinking about Jerry Jones before you were thinking about Jimmy Johnson. You're not thinking about Stephen Jones now. You think about Jerry Jones. Stephen Jones. You think about Jerry Jones. That's what you think
I
about
lost
now.
track of the Joneses somewhere.
That's right.
If they stayed together, how many rings would they have had?
I mean, look, the fact is they underachieved. Barry Switzer, it's not that he's a bad coach or anything. He's a really interesting guy. But you would never have guessed just one more at that time. You'd have guessed at least 2 or 3.
I'd say one more. Here's why. Because Deion still would have beat you that year. Barry Switzer was there. He would have beat a Jimmy Johnson team. When Primetime went to San Fran, they would have still beat Dallas. Now, you would have won again if Prime had come to Dallas. But if Prime had stayed in San Francisco...
Jimmy Johnson, what makes you think he doesn't?
Well, I'm just saying, that's my point. That would have happened. But if Jimmy Johnson stays in Dallas, but Primetime never comes... You still might have had 3 and 4, but you ain't gonna have a whole bunch.
Right, Deion was the balance of power more than anyone back then.
No question. Stephen A's final take will...